Everyone, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Fair agenda. I didn't get a swing by the house on my way home. 456 miles, 4.5 hour deposition.
Red and blue lights.
Not really that bad, I just didn't stop anywhere.
Let's go to the bathroom.
I'm good. I'm good.
It'll happen. Let's approve the minutes of the February 27th, 2018 regular meeting, please. Have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Second by Carol. All yes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, our crowd is sparse once again. We got Mr. O'Donohue, Mr. Scarberry, and the gang over there.
Immigrant reporter.
Yeah, you gotta be able to laugh at yourself, don't you, Sean?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the first thing we're gonna deal with tonight, of course, as everybody knows, it's required that we have public input and have a hearing on our school calendar for the following year. So we did that our previous meeting. We had our first public hearing on next year's calendar. And tonight, we're going to receive any comments or any inquiries about the 2018-19 calendar. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Meeker.
Okay, and I'll give you another hard copy of the calendar we talked about last week. Let's see.
Thank you.
Ray, I know you want to talk about the calendar. Yeah. Okay, as Mr. Priestley indicated, we had our first public calendar hearing meeting last week. We talked about the fact that we're going to bring our students back, teachers back around the same time that we did this past year. So with the next year's calendar, we're looking at bringing employees back on August the 13th. But unlike this current year, we had 4 days for employees prior to the students' return. This year, the calendar committee decided to just go with 3 days. So we have 2 curriculum development days on the 13th and 14th, a preparation day on Wednesday, and then the students are back on August the 16th. We moved one of those curriculum development days to the end of the Christmas break, thinking that if we don't have to use it to make up for inclement weather, it'd be an opportunity when we come back from the break to just have our teachers provide them with professional development or training, anything that may be pertinent at the time next year. And also, as you'll recall, this past Christmas break, we had some of the worst weather that we've had the entire year. So when we came back on January 2nd this year, we had a lot of issues out there in our buildings. So we're hoping that, you know, if we not know what the weather's going to do, but if that was to play out again next year and we'd have some cold weather over Christmas break when we come back, that'd give us an opportunity to have just our employees in the building, check everything out before the students return.
Buses too, right?
Yeah, buses too. Our breaks will be the same. We've got have a week-long Thanksgiving break, essentially about a week and a half long Christmas break. It'll be just a little, I think maybe by a day longer than this current year's Christmas break. We also would have a full week off for spring break. And spring break would be the week before Easter. Easter next year is, actually, yeah, it would be April the 21st. It's late. We talked about spring break after Easter, but then we were concerned about our testing window. Because something that's changed with the testing window that we didn't have to worry about before is now they've got a lockdown date that you have to have the assessment completed. Used to be the window moved as you had to add days to your calendar, but this year that's not the case. nor for the next school year. So that's gonna impact, when we talk about our current year's calendar here in a moment, we'll get into that as well. I don't wanna mix the two up. I've got calendar,
Can't imagine.
calendaritis. I had asked the board, there's 6 faculty senate days that are scheduled throughout the year. The first one and the last one have to occur on the preparation days, leaving 4 within the calendar, and the policy spells out when those are to happen, or at least what months those faculty senate meetings are to take place. So I talked to you last week about making those faculty senate days day-long, eliminating the need for 2-hour early dismissals for those faculty senate meetings, as well as eliminating the need for 3-hour early dismissals for teacher trainings. That we would have 4 day-long opportunities for professional development and faculty senate meetings on those 4 days. So that's why you see that PL there, Kirk's not here, what do you call it, fuchsia? We hope to be able to do that next year, calendar. I mean, otherwise, everything else is the same, in terms of they changed the wording, you notice after spring break next year, on April the 22nd, a PM day, which is now called a professional meeting day. Those used to be curriculum development days.
They like those
Yeah,
letters.
and then the CE days are gone now. Those used to be continuing ed days, and there's no mention of this in here anymore. So anyway, if anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
Just, once again, just want to emphasize, Jeff, the 180-day school calendar, or 180 instructional day requirement. And what we'll be doing next year is using 4 of those days for these PL days, but those are counted as if they were instructional days, correct?
Or the accrued time days.
Right. They're using accrued time for the professional learning.
But they don't count as against the pure accrued time days.
Right, so
No, that's what I mean, those are
Yeah.
2 separate things. So I'm not talking about accrued, I'm talking about that currently it's not in law, but effective next year it will be, where you can use these PL days, right?
right.
Which isn't permissible now. But my point is this, that we're gonna have 176 actual instructional days for kids.
That's what this calendar would represent.
Right, even though it says
Yeah,
180 over here,
Yeah.
we're really having 176.
that's correct.
Okay, because once again, and that can get into Rowdy's comment about accrued time, which is totally different, but are still permitted. You could have up to 5 days of accrued time in addition to that, correct?
Well, what the options are is that you can have 5 days of accrued time, you can make that for lost instruction.
Right,
You can also use another set of 5 days of accrued time for professional learning.
right.
So it is all accrued time, it's time you're accruing, but for 2 different purposes.
My point is this, is that theoretically, you could, if you had 5 days of bad weather, instead of having 176 actual instructional days, you could have 171 if you permitted that.
That's true.
That's my point.
Right.
Is that both of those are allowable. And I think instructional days are very, very important, and you need to have them. And, but I understand the rationale behind going to the PL days, because in essence, I don't think we're really losing the instructional time, because we were eliminating all the early outs, which equate about the same amount of time throughout the year. So I think by designating these 4 days as actual PL days, when students don't have to come, we eliminate early outs and that bad attendance that you said occurs on those days. That we're really providing about the same amount of instructional time, but we technically only have 176 actual instructional days. But now, if there were bad weather, theoretically again, you could go down as far as 171 days.
That's accurate.
My point is, I hope we don't ever have to go below the 176 days. Because built into this calendar already are how many, 7 makeup days?
Yes.
So that says that there are 7 days for bad weather that can be made up before you ever touch these 176 days. And so if you use those and then you start using accrued days, you get down into dangerous territory, in my opinion, as far as the actual number of instructional days. So I'm for the 170 or 180 days with 4 PL days, but I'll be reluctant to go for the accrued days.
I do want to mention, because it's my understanding, it was talked about on the conference call we had today, the state superintendent of schools about making up days this year, that there's another bill out there, calendar bill, it's not dead yet. It still has legs. It could impact this.
Next year.
Yeah, this calendar that we're talking about right now
But
could
it
be
wouldn't
impacted.
affect this year.
Not this year.
Okay.
So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that bill. I think it's in the House right now. So,
You never know what they're gonna do. But I still believe that the idea behind the accrued days is good. If I live in Tucker County and, you get a mucho snow and might have to miss 20 days of school and it's hard to make it up, and you use those 7 available days for makeups and still you can't get anywhere near it, so you're forced to go way up into June to do it, that, I can understand that. But for moderate weather and places like where we are that typically don't get that, many snow days, I think, we're wise to keep the instructional days when we can. That's all I have to say.
so next week then, no, the next board meeting on the 20th, the board would, if nothing changes, nothing happens with the legislature, and the law, that changes something we're doing, board would act on and approve the calendar for next year. And then at that point, we would go ahead and submit it to the department for approval.
Now, this has to happen by Saturday night if they come up with something new,
Right,
right?
right.
Unless they extend it.
So anyway, I'm kind of holding the breath that kind of hoping that what I'm hearing doesn't happen. So, because it would make some significant changes to what we're trying to do. Potentially.
I think they'll be slow to do anything on education for the
Yeah.
next 4 days. That's my thinking. That's just,
Next decade or so.
yeah.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? Anyone in the audience?
It's a good calendar. This is really a good calendar.
Well, I know I've mentioned to several people the fact that we weren't going to have early outs, hopefully, and it's been very well received from parents.
Yeah, I really believe that this calendar is good for students. I think it's going to maximize the instruction that we're going to have next year. Those early out days are, as I mentioned last week, attendance for students is atrocious on those days. So.
Maybe it'll have the attendance rate too.
Yeah.
We're about ready for you, if you're
Ready to roll, so I'm going to change hats now.
Okay, so that will conclude the public hearing. If nobody has any other comments or questions, and there aren't any, so, okay, that'll conclude the public hearing, second reading or second hearing. Well, now we're moving down to.
Okay, now we'll talk about,
Sign anything?
please don't let the electric go on. The current year calendar. The calendar I'm going to give you reflects the revisions that the board has already made to the current calendar. Okay, and the calendar I have pulled up back here, after a tremendous amount of effort, reflects the same
This calendar
revisions.
is the one that's discussed in the Lincoln Journal this week.
So I sat down with Joan and made these revisions.
Got a new calendar, see?
I think next year Ray ought to be responsible for the calendar.
Yeah.
Really good calendar.
It really is. And here's just a little running list of what's happened in writing and what work's left to be done here over the next few days.
Thank you.
Yeah, you make a fine calendar committee member. And spokesperson. Okay. So if you look at this handout, this will indicate what's happened to date through board action. January the 5th was a snow day. So was January the 8th, January the 16th, January the 17th, and January the 18th. So 5 snow days to date. And the board decided, through our previous discussions, we would make those days up on OS days. February the 2nd, which I had Jonah to leave those on the calendar. So February the 2nd became an instructional day. It's already happened. We had school that day. Same thing right here on February the 19th. Became a day of instruction. We also decided that we were going to use the upcoming OS days. This is March the 9th, that's this coming Friday, was to be a makeup day for snow. And the OS day before spring break. We had talked about, and the board had voted upon, making this an instructional day for one of the snow days we missed. Based upon my conversation, our phone conference with the state superintendent of schools, Steve Payne this afternoon, he, working with the governor, are providing us with some flexibility that we didn't have before in terms of how to handle these work stoppage days. They told us initially we could not use an OS day to make up for a work stoppage day. Well, that's not the case now. We're able to do so. And I'm recommending this evening that you consider this. Backing up to what we have previously already done to revise our calendar. And instead of using March the 9th and March the 23rd as makeup days for snow, let's use the March 9th and March 23rd date as makeup days for the work stoppage. That gives us 2 days that we can use there. And in order to do that, what I'm asking you to consider is to forgive January the 16th and 17th by making that accrued time. That those 2 snow days, because the board already agreed to use 1 accrued day, that March the 9th, March the 23rd, those for makeup days for snow would become accrued time.
In effect, making up the 22nd and 23rd of February work stoppage days.
That's right. So then you can take your pen, pencil, mark through the March 9th, the March 23rd up there, and that would simply say accrued time. So I can find that again.
So where it says OS, you say just put AQ or something?
So we would just line through those 2 days and just write out there accrued time. Are you with me? Well, that means then that the February 22nd and 23rd could be made up on March the 9th and March the 23rd.
Say that again, please.
So February the 22nd and February 23rd, because we've already decided when we're going to make up the 16th. We've chosen June the 1st for it. We could say February 22nd, February 23rd, those days could be made up on March 9th and March 23rd.
All right. Now they're freed up because it's the accrued time.
Now, that leaves 7 more days we need to figure out how to make up.
Okay, at this point, Jeff, now, if we do this, we will have used 3 days of accrued time.
Right.
3 days of the accrued time.
Maybe that'll make them happy.
So we good so far?
Yeah.
We're listening.
All right. All I can ask. And then, I had asked you before not to touch this curriculum development day after the break, but I've changed my mind now. I think we need to take that day and make it an instructional day.
Okay, Jim.
Now, by doing that, what'd you call me?
Jim,
By doing so,
It didn't take a Gideon to get you that.
no, no, it didn't. I'm not gonna say what it
Oh, I forgot
By-
that's on the field.
By doing this, we are gonna need a 3-hourly dismissal somewhere for our teachers so that we can train them on the assessment. But not a whole day. So this April 2nd would become an instructional day.
in essence, February 26th.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. So February 26th, we would make up on April 2.
Let me guess, this 3 hour early out we have to have for prep for the testing is gonna be made up with accrued time, right?
Oh, we'd be using accrued time, yeah, to be able to use the 3 hours.
Figured that's coming.
There's 3.5, Carol.
That's right.
You're keeping score of it.
They are,
Keep
aren't
chipping
they?
away at me, don't they?
The next 2 work stoppage days, February 27th and 28th, we can simply just look at the 2 OS days we have right here. And we may have to change the dates of these a little bit because that P day is gonna move as we take out those OS days. So Brenda and I, we may have to sit down and, before the board officially acts upon my recommendations, these dates might get tweaked just a little, okay? But I'm saying, let's grab these 2 OS days at the end, since we're now able to do so. So that's gonna take care of 2 work stoppage days. So now we're saying that June the 5th and 6th.
27th and 28th.
Yep.
For February 27th and 28th, yeah.
Okay, so 5th and
Again,
6th
Sean,
are now
we
just
may
plain
have, we
old
may
instructional
tweak
days,
these,
right?
but I just want the board to get a feel for how this could play out.
Those are not just regular instructional days, right? 5th and
Right.
6th?
And that leaves us what we got left,
4 days
4 days.
and a half.
Okay,
The half day, 3 hour early out we got to add in.
yeah.
Oh,
Now,
We're gonna make it up accrued time, just not.
we were told today, and I know I'd said this before, but then when talking to some of the State Department people, a couple of years ago when the calendar changed, the new law was signed in, or the bill was signed into law. That day, this preparation day was protected, and we were told we couldn't use it. Well, today, we were told we can consider using that day. But however, keep this in mind, if we use that preparation day as a day of instruction, that's only gonna be like a half day. Because teachers still have to have time to do their paperwork. That preparation day is really, the purpose is for them to be able to finish out the school year. Any documents, reports, anything that they have to complete. You know, we used it back during the water crisis, we used that preparation day. So we've been told again today, and I'm just gonna leave it up to you to decide whether or not you wanna touch it or not. We don't have to. We can leave that alone, and that P day, though, just keep in mind, is gonna be our very last day in our calendar. It's gonna slide all the way to the end once we're finished.
So June the 1st, is it going to be a full instructional day or a partial?
It's a full instructional.
But you said they have to have 3 hours to do everything, right? So it's not a full.
Well,
It would be
June the-
counted as a full educational day, but we're gonna dismiss 3 hours
Well,
early.
what's gonna happen is June the fourth, like in this, by using these two OS days, that P day is now gonna have to be moved over here. What's gonna happen is these OS days are gonna slide over.
So the P day is gonna become June 8th, or June 6th, I'm
June
sorry.
Yeah, June the sixth, they're just, that's right. So the fourth becomes an instructional day, the fifth becomes an instructional day, the sixth now becomes a P day.
Okay, but on the fourth, is it a full day or a 3-hour out day?
It'd be a full day. This becomes a full day of
Fourth,
instruction,
I know.
a full day of instruction, and then this is a P day.
Well, once he slides everything around, whatever that P day.
Oh, I know the P day.
That's, I know that is hard to follow,
I knew that.
Yeah, it's gonna slide to the end.
but it's gonna slide.
Full day.
It will be under this, yeah.
Right,
If we decide to tap into to that preparation day, to that P day,
okay.
if we do that, that's going to leave us with 3 additional days to have to make up. I just wanted to get a feel for
Okay,
you.
now at this point, what's the last day for students before we deal with those 3?
But let's say we leave the P day alone and we let the teachers have that day to do their work, to close out the year. So we're still looking then for 4 days. We're still looking for 4 days.
Right now, June fifth is the last day for students.
That's right. Right now, without doing anything else, June the fifth would be the last day. But we still have 4 days to make it.
And what day, is that a Tuesday?
June the fifth is on a Tuesday, yeah.
Okay, and if that's the last day, you still need 4 days, right?
We still have 4 days we need to make up.
And you have not used the P day in that scenario?
And we haven't touched it. I'm saying, what if we don't touch it? What if we leave that day alone? What would it look like?
You'd have to come back, the kids would come back on Monday.
So we're gonna have to get 4 more days. Now, that's where I'm gonna suggest that you think about maybe making up a day or 2 on break. Just for your consideration, and a couple reasons why I mentioned it. The big one is that assessments coming up, and all the days that we missed. It's a quick turnaround. I know that, when I talked to Mr. Snyder today, we've talked to all the principals today. That was a big concern for him, to try to maximize the number of instructional days before the juniors take the SAT. Because that date is not gonna move, it's April the 10th. So, I know there's gonna be some people who are gonna say, please don't touch the spring break, we've made plans, you know. I think we're just gonna have to be flexible if you all decide to use a day or 2 in terms of allowing for educational leave for vacations or anything that's been planned.
I think probably there are more people, due to cost, that have made plans for the week that school is supposed to let out now. More family vacations probably planned that week than over spring break, quite frankly, week-long vacations, because we all know what the vacation destination for Southern West Virginia is, where most of us go every year, and the rates go up at the end of the last week of school. That's when the rates go up probably 50% at the beach. So if we can, I mean, personally, if we can keep our last day of school, as was it June 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th? The 8th would be a Friday, correct?
Yeah, I think we can safely say that if we look at a day or 2 here,
Mm-hmm.
that we are going to guarantee that our students' last day will be no later than the 8th.
Yeah, Thursday.
And that's without using
Friday.
the P day.
Friday. Yeah, because right now, not touching the P day, we need 4 more days. We're looking potentially at 2 from break and 2 the last week, or the first full week of June, and then you still have the P day on, P day would fall to what, Monday the following week?
Because if you can go, let's say we decided that we're going to put those 4 remaining days at the end. So now you're looking at the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and the 11th. I mean, you'd have students going to school through June the 11th,
If you don't use break.
if you don't touch the
Yeah.
break. So that's
Thank you.
an easier way, I guess, to,
We're gonna use a couple days of break. I mean,
I know.
for a number of reasons. I mean, we have the testing coming up. It's an inflexible window. The testing doesn't slide down based on the number of curriculum days you've had before it. So there's only one place left to make this time up in time for the kids to get prepared for the testing. And that's spring break. I mean, if we want to pay lip service to the education, the preparation of the kids, then we just say, no, we're not going to touch break. We'll tack it all on at the end of the year. That doesn't help the kids in my book. And I even asked at the last meeting about potentially using break time for that reason, because I thought, based on what I heard before, that we couldn't use break time. But in this scenario, there is no good solution. Some people are going to be unhappy no matter where we take these days from. And your suggestion that we be very flexible in terms of granting educational leave to those people that do have set plans over break, those students, I'm all for that. Because, you know, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in this situation, but it's the kids that I'm here for. The kids need to be prepared. The kids that have set plans need to have some flexibility in terms of being able to go over that break. But as a whole, we've got to do what's in the best interest of the biggest group of kids, and I think that's taking some days, a couple of days from break, as you suggested.
I know local boards are making this decision right now. You probably saw last week where Jackson County took all of the spring break. I know neighboring county superintendents I've spoken to, their boards are having this discussion. I won't name counties, but I know there's a couple of counties that neighbors us right now that's looking to take some of those days, not all of them, but something similar to what we're talking about tonight.
Well, you know, I don't have a problem with going, try to take a couple of them on.
I think it's, you know, we're extraordinary circumstances this year, you know, and it's not like a typical year. If you miss this many days, you have to do some things that ideally you would prefer not to do.
If the governor works this out, from my understanding, he wants to try to talk to the State Board of Education and the state superintendent to try to give a little leeway in this. If he works it out to where they don't have to make up all this time, will they still have to take part of their spring?
No, I mean, if that happens, you know, we'll have to come back and have another conversation. But based upon what we heard today in the phone conference, I don't think there's any chance that the governor is just going to be able to forgive these days, or is willing to just forgive the days.
Well, also that would not get us ready for the test either.
Well, no, it wouldn't, but now, it was after 4 whenever he read the letter that he was sending to the state superintendent and to the Board of Education, the State Board of Education, and in that letter, he was asking them to do this, to look at this and see if it was possible to do that. But now, I've had some parents to tell, or talk to me about, this is not fair if the teachers don't have to make this up. But if it works out to be that way, can we get together and provide enough in-services and trainings to bring the teachers in for those days and train the teachers, whether it be after school's out or during spring break, and have the teachers to make up their time?
But the kids
Then
will
let
have
the
their break,
kids
right?
have their break. And I understand too, you want them to learn.
I'm gonna play Steve Priestley here for a second and say that I don't care how much forgiveness there is, I don't care how much, you know, people are willing to work to make up for the days we missed. At the end of the day, the kids miss these educational days.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for being flexible and using what we have, but I want my kids and the kids of this county to get the education they're supposed to get, and that means they have to be in a classroom being taught. So when we get beyond, what's your drop dead number, Steve? Right where we're at with accrued time? I mean, we're already pushing that envelope.
We were told today that you can't use accrued time to make up for the work stoppage.
We
'Cause
found
that question came up a couple of times.
And that's why we moved around some of the snow days to
But we
accrued
can back
days.
up
Right.
and undo anything we've done previously.
And that,
But what I'm saying though is from my perspective, even if there is some etiquette and some agreement that we can forgive 4 more days, that's 4 days our kids didn't get the education that their parents pay taxes for. And being a tax-paying parent, I want my kids to get that education. If it means they give up spring break, or if it means we add 3 days at the end of the school year, that's what I'm gonna say at some point. I mean, I'm sorry, the kids come first in all this.
Okay, I have to agree, but when they come back at me, I'll just say, Steve
And
and
Rowdy.
Rowdy are the hard asses. I tried.
Gerald, you're on that camera again.
Is there a 5-second delay on that?
It's a live stream.
One of the greatest things I was taught through college and through law school was to do well in school, you had to go to school. You had to go to class. And when you go to a college orientation, I've been to a couple in the last couple of years, you go to a college orientation, one of the things they stress to incoming freshmen is, if you do nothing else, go to class. So if we don't have class for these kids, there's zero chance of them learning anything. So I know all this is theoretical, and we don't know what will come of it, but understand what my position is gonna be if we're asked to say, well, you can just forget these 4 or 5 days, and the kids lose out on that education. So, go ahead, sorry.
No,
And I'm not even sure how, the public sentiment, we've seen it all throughout this stoppage is people are getting paid and they're not working. But then the response to that has always been, well, they're eventually gonna work those days. So if they're gonna work 200 days, the days they'll be paid for. And I don't know, and like Carol said, maybe there's some way they can make up, but I think if the employees aren't gonna work 200 days, there's gonna be some backlash.
They need to work their days.
Right,
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm saying, but how that would be accomplished and be worthwhile. I mean, just at the end of the year, I know I've heard that from someone, that they conclude their year without any students. Well, I don't know
No, I think they need
what would
to,
really occur then, I don't think. it'd
in
be very much.
services or some trainings or whatever. All
He's
of
been in the
them
classroom
should be
teaching kids.
Right, well, at the end of the year though, believe me, I've seen it too many times, Bill,
trained. They
right?
don't teach.
Well, what I mean is when school's out, when school starts and you've got 3 or 4 days, then you've got a lot of things you can prepare and you want to do, get ready to go. When, at the end of the year, my mind is not there right there. I'm not really, I'm on something else. So, I think utilizing, due to this, a couple of spring break days, and what we do here, it seems to me like we're looking at, depending on what we do with that plan day, if kids either getting out Wednesday or Thursday, which is, less than a week or a week later than they would have normally, nothing had happened.
Right.
So after missing all these days of school for the stoppage, to only go one week later for them, I think is a pretty good deal, but you got the spring break days. And also the employees, depending on what we do with that P day, we could conceivably, employees could finish that week too, right?
It's possible.
I mean,
Or no later than the 11th.
well, depending on what we do with the P day, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, so in one scenario, the students, they would be able to finish that week, and I agree with what Rowdy said earlier. A lot of people, when they make vacation plans, typically they're gonna leave on Saturday or something for the Sunday for their vacation. So if you can get them out of school that week, at least by Friday, Thursday or Friday, then it shouldn't impact that part of it.
Well, Jeff, what we were talking about, if we took 2 of the break days and we slid,
Are we talking about maybe this Monday and Tuesday?
let's just say 2 of the days, just for my purpose. I'm trying to see when school ends here. If we take 2 of those days, we don't do anything with the P day on the 4th except slide it down the calendar. We make the 2 OS days, school days, then the P day can become, well, we have to go, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th would have to be instructional days. Couldn't the 8th be the P day under that scenario?
It would
That's
be.
what I think.
And so everybody's done on Friday.
That's my
Everyone's
point.
finished
Yeah.
on Friday.
That's what I thought.
So, and again, now, the date, so, we could say, all right, so 2 of those remaining 4 work stoppages days, let's say we could grab on the 26th and 27th. This break is right before Easter, right?
So
Easter's
Easter will be the
April
following weekend.
1st.
So
And a
you
lot
can
of
have
people, that's Good Friday,
Right.
so, we wouldn't touch it.
Not bad.
Right, so you do it early in the week.
So you do it Monday and Tuesday, and then everyone's out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's still 5 days. And then you come down here and grab the other 2 days. And then we decide whether or not we're going to use that P day or not.
Well, I mean, and what we're talking about here, though, you just slide the P day down to Friday,
Yep,
and
this
it's a full P day. We don't have to use any
a
of them,
full
correct?
P day, and students' last days is June the 7th. A week later than what they would have been out had we not had the snow and work stoppage days.
So theoretically, what we could do, and I don't think I'm in favor of, what we could do is slide the P day down to Thursday and use another half day of accrued time, and Thursday would be the last day of school for the kids,
We
right?
could. we could.
We're not for that crowd.
I know, I'm just saying, I'm looking at
I just-
theoretical possibilities.
I just know how busy that day is.
Well, I think we need a full P day for them.
Yeah,
That's
I-
why I like grabbing the first 2 days of break,
I will say
making the
this.
4th through the 7th instructional days, and the, whatever, the 8th is a full P day.
So let's say we're saying now we're gonna use April 26th, April 27th. And we're also gonna use, I'm just gonna say June,
You
because
mean March?
yeah, March, thank you. I knew I'd get those mixed up.
We're using March the 26th and 7th,
Right.
Brenda.
For what days? March 1?
March 1st and 2nd, let's say. Now, Sean, again, keep
I know,
in mind that
So they
once
will,
we sit down and tweak this might look different on March the 20th when we bring it to the board for the, to approve.
so they will still have a long weekend, even
They're still going to have a 5-day break.
5 days.
And they go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, up Easter weekend, which we include Easter or Good Friday.
And then we're saying, right now, if we leave the P day alone, we're gonna have school June the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Right.
And the 8th becomes the P day,
Eighth
full
is the
P
P
day.
day.
Everybody's out that way.
No,
You don't go 3 hours.
no, it's full P day.
And then I'll sit down with Brenda and we'll make these dates line up a little better than what we have now. I just
March,
want,
your March 6th work stoppage, that's the only line I haven't filled in on my little paper here.
so it'd be June. I just put
That'd
June
be
question
June
mark,
7th.
June question mark,
June.
For 5th and 6th.
for March 5th and 6th.
Well, the 4th would actually become February 27th, because you're gonna slide the P day down, so the 4th would become the 27th. June 4 would cover February 27th, June 5 would cover February 28th, June 6 would cover,
Right, we have to
oh
change
heck,
them now.
yeah, it's all messed up. I got dates all over
All
the
I'm
place here.
interested in, Steve, I think is important for us, was to establish what, if anything, we were gonna do on break. I think we've got a good idea, if you all are okay with what we discussed this evening, Brittany and I can sit down, Bill, and, make this have a good flow to it.
Is there a consensus among the board that we use 2 days of spring break?
Yes.
That's fine with me.
Because that's what we need to get that out.
That's the first thing we have to decide, I think.
So now, what have we used accrue time? 4.5 days?
So now, well, technically, we really only used it for 3 days,
3 days?
yeah.
3
So-
full days, yeah.
3 full
3 full days, so that January the 16th, January the 17th, January the 18th, those days are forgiven, essentially. It's as if we didn't miss those days.
So now you
Sure
gotta
hope
plug.
it won't snow again.
Oh, no,
Or
she said.
flood.
She said,
But you still have to plug a half a preparation day in somewhere after spring break to prepare for the testing, is that right?
we're gonna have a 3-hour early
And
dismissal
that's gonna
sometime in
be
April.
the other half day of accrued time. that
It'll
we're
be
gonna use.
after we come back from break. I'm gonna talk to the principals next week about a day.
You said testing starts April 10.
I had a tentative date before, we're gonna have to take another look
We're gonna have 5 days to do it.
at it. Gosh.
You're gonna have the April 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 9th on which to have that half a day preparation. Testing starts on the 10th.
That's just the high school
Okay.
start.
The high school students take the SAT on April the 10th, and, you know, that's a high stakes test, and we have to have 95% of our students
Take.
seated for the test.
And when does the other testing occur?
The other testing window,
May 1st, April 30th, May 1st.
I wanna, yeah, that sounds about right. We have to be, I know we have to be finished by May the 25th.
Well, it's later in the month.
Yeah. So it's basically the month of May. Is the testing month.
Have you got all that figured out?
No, but we're
Brandon?
real. Brandon.
They do the 26th and 27th that are instructional days. First two.
Okay, that's instruction.
Mhm.
And then we'll have the 28th, 29th, 30th.
29th, 30th, the second is an instructional day as well. was a P day and 2 OS days, first 4 days of the last week. These first 4 days are gonna be instructional days, the last day is gonna be the P day. Under what we have right now. Assume we don't get a flood or something.
What I'll do is, I'll have Jonah put us together a revised count, because I'm gonna have to send one to the department at the end of the year, so we'll just go ahead and.
So the kids will get out.
Their last day would be Thursday the 7th, under what we're talking about right now.
This will not change graduation date at all.
Oh, no, graduation's locked. Once you set the graduation date, it's not to be touched, so.
Well, while we're on that, how does that, I'm just
It's in the
curious.
code.
So they graduate even if they don't complete the requisite number of hours in their courses?
Graduation, that day, that evening, that night is locked. Once the board, state department approves your calendar, it's locked down.
And the rumor that I got that the kids were gonna have to come back next year to make up part of that before they get graduated is not true.
Once you hand him that diploma, good luck ever seeing him inside the doors of a school for 6 or 8 years.
I don't have any
Good.
questions myself.
I mean, I think
I'll wait
that's,
later, but I don't have.
considering what's happened, it's not bad.
Well, that's what I think.
That's
That's
Really
all right.
not. And the teachers will finish up on which day?
Well, if we protect that preparation day, June the 8th, they'd be finished
They'll
on that
finish that
Friday.
week too. They'll finish on Friday and they go where it'll be Saturday.
Yep, leave out Saturday morning.
Thank you, Mr. McKibb.
This will be subject to board decision on March 20th,
So,
I
yeah,
guess.
so we'll
Tidy it up.
tidy it, yeah, right. We'll tidy up the dates.
Subject to-
And then the board will vote on it on the
Edicts coming
20th,
down.
and at that point, it's official. But we will go ahead and communicate to everyone that we are going to use the first 2 days of spring break.
Is that your primary purpose, right? this
We
morning?
need to let people know now.
Soon as possible.
Sean's letting them know.
Sean, yeah,
Live stream too, buddy.
live stream.
Carol.
I could wash my mouth out with soap.
All right, I guess I'll sit down then.
Thank you, Bill, or Jerry.
Bill.
I was looking at Bill, thinking.
It's all right.
Okay, the live stream has ended, so you can
Go back to your normal.
talk freely.
language. All right, that was very informative.
Draining but informative.
Yes, yes. But it'll all sink into us here today, especially if we get, Johnny can give us something that'll, we can look at. I think, given the circumstances, that's
It's good
a
to
compromise
do.
for everyone. Okay, let's go to the administrative section then. Let's have a motion, please.
I'll move.
Rowdy, Fred seconds that. And let's see, we've got one item. There'll be a lot of discussion probably with this item.
Administrative aid. Okay, I'm gonna,
Let's
I'm-
table that.
you haven't gotten
I'm
it.
dragging it all I can, it's your turn.
Okay, I'm ready. I had to do something.
Okay.
Item A is a contract with Brenda Powell to provide training and instruction for a new central office executive secretary effective April 2nd, 2018, not to exceed 300 days.
I guess I'm.
I mean,
There's a typo.
I mean,
there.
30, according to the terms of the contract.
That was good.
Anybody have any comments or?
We have a lot of people for myself.
All right. Now, Jeff, now that, I'm assuming those 30 days can go over into July, the next fiscal year. Okay, all right. Is that an all yes vote on that item? Yes. All-
Yes.
Okay, it's all yes. All right. Finance, do I have a motion?
I move.
Carol?
I'll second.
Rowdy? Ray?
Schedule of invoices totaling $496,547.27. And that's attached.
That's attached. Everybody's had the opportunity to look at that, bills and all, so. Mr. Wilson hasn't indicated he had a question to me, so I guess we're okay. Is that all yes on the finance?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to personnel then. Motion, please. Motion. Fred?
Second.
Carol, second. Bill?
Item A, employment of substitute service personnel. Item B, leave of absence. And item C, retirement resignations. Ms. Tony turned hers in, said June 30th, but said that it could be before then. She may change her mind.
Are we leaving June the 30th on here?
You were leaving June 30th, but this, she
For now.
said she may retire earlier, but she wanted to put down June 30th. And I gave you a handout where we are as far as vacancies, what positions we have next year. There's a job fair tomorrow at Marshall, job fair at State on Thursday. And I'm just glad that this race came through before we went up there and all those out-of-state schools was there recruiting and offering them this big money and a $10,000 signing bonus and money for them to move.
Hard to compete with that, isn't it?
It's hard to compete. We got Myrtle Beach there, they'll be there tomorrow. But my biggest concern looking at next year, once again, will be filling these special ed positions.
Hopefully, pay increase helps. Okay, anybody have any other questions, Bill, personnel area? If not, is that all yes on personnel items?
Yes.
All yes on those. Okay, board members, anybody have any comments, concerns, or anything want to talk about? Mr. Mickey, if you have anything you want to talk
I've
about?
got a couple comments. So one is, I wanted the board to know that we submitted our MIP today to the School Building Authority. We're asking for $143,000 for new windows at Midway Elementary School.
When will we hear from that?
That's a big question.
Oh.
That date's not coming to me.
Oh, okay.
Right, Ray,
It's in June, wasn't
is it is in June. It is
June.
June. I don't
Oh,
know. I think this past year, it was like the first week of June. But for some reason, I've got in my mind that this year it's later, like maybe near the end of June. But it is in June.
Okay.
June.
We understand that you're.
And we're not committing any money to this project unless we are instructed to do so.
Yeah.
No, so this will be no financial commitment to the board. Just asking for $143,000.
But it's one of those situations where if it looks like sometimes the presentation that we may need to pitch in, that's something you come back and ask for beforehand. That's the only school in the county that doesn't have modernized windows, right?
Such a.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we need to do that. We can.
So that's,
Okay.
and a reminder that on March the 20th, at that board meeting at 5 p.m., we're going to have a student celebration recognizing our math field day winners, spelling bee winners. I'm leaving someone out. Martin Luther King poster contest winners, right? So that's something to look forward to. So that'll be at 5 o'clock on March the 20th.
We will have food.
And then I have one more item, and it says Brenda. I wonder what that could be. I'm not even looking. I'm kidding. I'm gonna sit that down right here. Hold on just a moment.
Trouble.
What could it be, Santa?
My camera ready? Is it?
Yeah, let me explain more.
Now let's stick with it.
Grab that mic.
Oh. I thought it was a presentation.
Sorry about that. We should have had like a video.
Like Daniel Boone.
Like a trumpet thing.
Every superintendent on the
The
bus?
building announcement system, have Brenda do an all-call.
There are people, here's Tina, there's Tina. Have y'all been caught on the carpet?
Yes, we have. Oh, I'm sure. More than once. We're in trouble.
Oh, you are getting so tall, you don't
Oh, my God. There's my brother. And there's Jonah.
Hey, Jonah.
My goodness, how'd they get you up?
We get back to you before you completely left.
Yeah.
Just figured you'd just leave town.
Oh, my.
Brenda, that's, you
Sneaky
know,
people.
yeah, some sneaky people. And, you know, it's kind of been a running thing with Brenda and I haven't really talked about her retirement. She'll bring it up and I don't know where
We
to
don't
talk
talk about
about
it
it.
much.
Bill
But-
just contracted with her for 300 days.
So
Yes, yes.
anyway, what I'd like to say, I've written.
Okay.
Because I'm afraid I get emotional and I lose it. So I just want to say this. It's often said that all good things must come to an end. And we all recognize the key role and importance that you played in this school system over the past 42 years. The numerous responsibilities, and how crucial you've been in the day-to-day operations of this school system. Central office employees in particular take great comfort in knowing that you're here, especially in a crisis situation. And they don't care to tell me that. Jeff, you're important, but Brenda's much, much more important. Amen. You've been the voice of the school system for making hundreds of announcements on a school messenger over the years. And a mutual friend of ours is still in mourning, knowing that there's going to be a day that's going to come where he's not going to hear your voice on his telephone.
Yeah,
I told him he needed to record it.
yeah.
Save it. But just a heartfelt, sincere thank you for the thousands of little things that you've done every day for the students, parents, employees of Lincoln County School System. Words simply cannot express our gratitude for you. Thank you for being a tireless professional, a helpful and caring coworker, and most importantly, a good friend. Your retirement will leave an enormous gap in all of our lives and hearts, and life here will never be quite the same. On behalf of the board, myself and others, Brenda, best wishes for a very happy retirement. Hope that you have fun, enjoy the many years ahead, because you've certainly earned it. And we have a token of our appreciation. If the board, if you all want to come down and
Yes.
take a picture.
Could you have her turning around this way, please?
Have her turning around this way, please. Have her this way.
Use the
I'll move this up.
Want us on the step?
fuel cell.
We're on the step.
How many hours will we spend in this room?
Stand there, I stand
Lots
up.
of
You want to
them.
be safe.
On the bridge.
Lots of them. Welcome. My friend.
Three, two, one. Hey. Okay, I'm seeing it. Camera's flashing.
Now, you all have worked here 42 years, and Tina, I think, will attest to this. I have never worn blue jeans to work. And I have never worn blue jeans to work.
I couldn't say it.
I thought the exact same thing, but I'm not gonna
Today, I got on blue jeans. Because,
For the issue before you
I
She
had-
made a comment today too. She said, I'm gonna wear my jeans tonight.
yeah, I bet you thought, oh, yeah.
I come this place and said, oh, are you going
I don't think so.
Well, no.
I don't think they're gonna
I've
fire you,
always
Brenda.
tried to at least look professional. Well, there's nothing wrong with blue jeans.
That's right.
That's right.
They'll get up in there.
We want you
I
to,
am so thankful my family's here. My brother, Kenneth Smith, Gene, his wife Linda, my son-in-law Matthew, and my daughter Becky, who looks a little bit like me. And Brody, my oldest grandson. And Brooks, my 6-year-old kindergartner. And a Hamlin. My dearest friend in the world over there.
And as I told Matthew earlier, I want all of you all to know, Sunday morning, I will be at the altar, because I have lied for 2 weeks. And how hard it was for me not to go to Brenda and say, I'm doing this thing and I need you to tell me something.
the team has worked really hard.
Well,
She has.
I had no clue.
There's been several that's been involved in this little secret squirrel activity.
Yeah.
Well, and let me tell you the funny secret squirrel that happened this evening. So Kim and Christy were gonna help me get everything in here. So we were going to meet at my house. How often does she go home and not come back at 5:30? So at 15 till 6, we pull out of the driveway. I'm supposed to pick Christy up at the church. Brenda is at the corner. She's all
We all pass her.
I was getting ready to call her because I thought she's gone home and she's forgotten about the board meeting.
So Christy pulls in at the church and I just drive right on by.
Oh, they're clever. Becky can tell you about them as much as anyone. I've lived my life with the Board of Education all these years. We planned all of our vacations around board meetings, and having to get the agenda ready. And I never had hard feelings about it. It was just my responsibility, and I love my job.
And her best part was during the state takeover.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We had some good ones there.
Yes, we did. But, my friends here have helped me through many situations in my personal life, and, I love them all, and they know I love them. And, I love my board. I will miss my board.
I miss you.
Thank you all.
You better open your present, because there might be some folks up there that really don't know what it is.
Somebody snuck around, huh?
Oh, yeah, I'll be at the altar, so oh, look how pretty. Okay.
I'm not going to car all night.
I stuffed it in the phone.
I don't have a knife. We're not allowed to carry them, are we?
And we were gonna get you a gun. We'll have to get Tina one now, if you're not here to use.
Tina has 18 more years before she can retire, just saying.
Wow.
18, you have 18 more years before you can retire.
Oh, oh, my. Oh, how beautiful. I'll put it on. I thought you already got me, Birdie.
What's going up there?
Oh, that's so
Lot of handsome boys.
Aren't they beautiful?
They are.
You call it?
Oh, I think she was just put it on.
I see it. Well, I thought I saw it pop up. There you go. Oh, yeah, so even people with arthritis can get it.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Took care of what it looks like.
She'll want.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's gorgeous. You know, so much jewelry.
Now, this one is a little bit more sentimental,
Mhm.
if you'll read on it.
42-year service. Oh, and here's the years. 7/1/76. Mr. Curry. Mr. Wilkerson would remember that very well. 3/30/18. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Carol put it on
It's gorgeous.
her.
Oh, how pretty. It's gorgeous.
I'll be lost today, Florida, without my friend.
You still have it.
You know where we are.
Well, I
Come over
know.
and hang out at board meetings, we'll give you an honorary position.
300
We can find
days.
something for you to do.
300 days.
And you will certainly be expected to be at the
Thank you,
retiree
my
meeting.
friend. Oh, that's right.
Retiree meetings, we'll expect.
I know.
Now,
Thank you.
Well, the board will have to conclude the meeting, and then we have a little something to eat.
Oh.
There's more.
There's always food in your friend.
We keep Rick-
I bet there's cake.
Yeah,
Oh,
Brenda
yeah.
and I've been here a long time.
Yeah, because Jonah's up there sneaking around doing something.
Yes.
I've been
yes.
here since '82, and she was here when I
Yeah.
got
Fred has come and gone and come back and. I've had 16 superintendents, including Mr. Pinkia, and 33 different board members. I've got minute books that are just unbelievable back in the storage room that I've kept forever, and there they are. They're the history of this board since I came. I will certainly train Susie to carry on that responsibility. Thank you all. I love you.
we love
We
you.
thank you.
Right there.
Brenda, just enjoy your retirement.
But if you get bored, though in retirement, I'm sure we can find a place.
Right, I can be a soap, couldn't I?
When I walked out the door tonight, Michelle said, 42 years. But she knew it.
Yeah,
She goes, 42 years.
yeah. I told that to who wasn't standing out there. The young people. They weren't even born. They weren't even born when I came.
Yeah, we're certainly gonna miss you. I know Michelle told me she saw you the other day in town somewhere.
Mhm.
And she was talking about, they're just not gonna be able to get by. And Brenda told her, said, no one is indispensable. And Brenda comes about as close, I don't think anyone's indispensable. But I think she comes about as close to being indispensable as anyone I
She
know.
does.
And, having worked with her for many years.
Thank you.
And I'm back there, I'm not gonna talk about it anymore, so.
Okay.
Night long enough, it didn't happen, right, Jeff?
Brenda, won't be too many times, but finally Jeff's gonna have to figure out how to turn this thing off.
Oh, my. See, I kept that secret. I haven't shown them.
We just say, Brenda, turn that red light off.
Yeah.
All right, let's adjourn to the reception here. Who would like to adjourn until March the 13th, 2018 at 5 p.m. for a student hearing? Then our next regular session will be on March the 20th at 6 here at the county office. Motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Baker?
Second.
Mr. Curry? Oh, yes?
Yes.
sir.
Oh, yeah.